Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Exactly 2 years ago, I made a video about the real meaning of Laylatul-Qadr. But I just want to make this video to expand more on it and to answer some of the questions that people have asked me ever since I made it, and also to clarify certain things even more than I did last time. So I just want to remind you of some of the contradictions that we looked at in the hadith regarding Laylatul-Qadr. We saw that some of the hadiths say that it's on the 27th, others said 22nd, 24th, 26th, the last 10 nights, the last 7 nights, the 17th, and all of these are from authentic Sunni books. And the Shias also add the 19th of Ramadan as well. And also we have another hadith that says that the Laylatul-Qadr is in the entire month of Ramadan. So we have so many contradictions. Is it the entire month? Is it the last 10 nights, the last 7 nights, the odd nights, the 22nd, 24th, and 26th, the 17th? There are so many contradictions. And every group, every sect, every school of thought, and even the scholars within the same school of thought differ with each other over when Laylatul-Qadr is. And most people have no idea, and they're just in confusion. And they're in constant doubt regarding this issue. And we already clarified that all these narrations must be false, and that the real hadith regarding Laylatul-Qadr is the one in Sunan Tirmizi, which says that it's referring to that the 1,000 months is referring to the Umayyad rule, and Laylatul-Qadr, as I explained in great detail, is actually the challenges that the true believers go through in this world. It is the challenges that the true believers overcome in this world. It's the life of the believers. It's the life of the mu'mineen. Not the life of everyone, but those who suffer and yet they resist. And that resistance, those challenges that they go through, that is Laylatul-Qadr. And regarding Taraweeh, the Taraweeh prayer, I mentioned that there are also many contradictions about that, but I didn't go into much detail regarding it. And I just wanted to let people know that yes, Taraweeh is also completely made up. The prayer that they have during the last 10 nights of Ramadan, and it's connected to this fake Laylatul-Qadr, that is also fake. And that is why we find that in Muwatta Imam Malik, Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu anhu allegedly said that this is a very good bid'ah that we are performing Taraweeh together instead of separately, because this narration implies that Umar ibn Khattab altered or changed the sunnah of the Prophet, and this is what the Shias accuse him of. And they quote this narration from the Sunni books, and they say that, see, this is proof from the Sunni books that Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu anhu altered the sunnah of the Prophet, because the Prophet used to perform Taraweeh separately, but at the time of Umar said that this is a good bid'ah, this is a good innovation, that we are now praying it together. So Umar is accused of creating this bid'ah. Now think about it. Who are the people who want us to think that Umar was an innovator? Obviously it's the Shias, right? So now you know where this whole fake Laylatul-Qadr and this whole fake Ramadan and this whole fake Taraweeh came from. It came from, not from the Sunnis, but from the Shias. You see, because this narration benefits the agenda of the Shias. And as I said before, the Shias are actually the real followers of Muawiyah. Originally, it was the Shias. The Shias and Muawiyah were secretly working together, and inshallah I will explain this in more detail on a separate video. But you might say, I thought you said that Muawiyah invented the fake Laylatul-Qadr, but now you're saying it was the Shias. Well, it's both. It's the Awliya al-Shaitan. You see, it's not about these words that people use like Shia and this or that. They're just words. Shia is not even a bad word. Shia means follower. The Quran uses the word Shia in a good way and in a bad way. But for example, the Quran says, "A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, wa inna min shi'atihi la Ibrahim." So the Quran uses the term Shia for Ibrahim alayhi salam. It says that Ibrahim was a Shia of Nuh, meaning he was a follower of Nuh. But it also says in the Quran that the Pharaoh was dividing people into Shias, into sects. So as you can see, the word Shia can have a negative meaning and a positive meaning. So don't get confused with these words. Don't think that, oh, the Shias are real, like there's this real, Shia ideology, and so we have to either be Shias or be against Shias, and we have to be against the word Shia as well. No, Shia is just a word. Okay, so when the Prophet, for example, praised the Shias of Ali, it has nothing to do with the 12 Imami Shias or the Ismaili Shias or the Ali Allahi Shias or the Babi Shias or the Kaysaniya Shias, or there are so many sects that call themselves Shias. So when the Prophet was praising the Shias of Ali, each of these Shia sects, they say that the Prophet was referring to us. But the truth is that the Prophet was referring to the true followers of Ali ibn Abi Talib radiyallahu anhu. Otherwise, who was he referring to? Was he referring to the Ismailis or the 12 Imamis or the Ali Allahis, or because they all claim to be Shias, right? No, he was referring to the people who actually follow Ali, not people who just call themselves Shias. Okay, so don't get confused into these with these terminologies that the Munafiqeen are using. The original terminology that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala used was mu'min and munafiq. Okay, so if someone's a munafiq, he's a munafiq. It doesn't matter if he claims to love Ali or hate Ali. It doesn't matter if he supports Muawiyah or if he's the 12 Imam Shia. You see, they're all munafiqeen. The people who support Muawiyah or munafiqeen, and the people who worship Ali are also munafiqeen. They're also aliya ash-shaytan. It's all the plans of the shayateen. It's not really about these organic ideologies. These are all just masks. These are all just masks for the shayateen. And so, anyway, the fact that Umar ibn Khattab, according to the Sunni books, Umar ibn Khattab allegedly altered Taraweeh shows that these narrations that are in the Sunni books that are full of contradictions, for example, the narrations about Taraweeh and Laylatul-Qadr, actually originate from the Munafiqeen. They originate from the Shias. They originate from the followers of Muawiyah. They originate from the Aliya Shaitan. They do not originate from the real Sunnis. The original Sunnis, the real Sunnis, did not believe in any of these things. The original Sunnis were those who followed the hadith from Sunan Tirmizi that says Laylatul-Qadr and the 1,000 months is referring to the believers versus Muawiyah. That is the ideology of the original Ahl Sunnah. The original Ahl Sunnah were the mu'mineen. They were the believers. They were not just some sect that has to stick to a certain set of beliefs, and anyone who doesn't is a heretic. It wasn't like that. It was the people of truth. It was the people who wanted to follow the truth, the original tradition of the Prophet, without altering it, without following Maliki or Shafi'i or Hanbali or Hanafi mazhabs, without altering the Sunnah of the Prophet based on what other people said later. No, the word Sunni meant people who follow the original Sunnah. In other words, the very term Sunni goes against being a Maliki or a Shafi or a Hanafi or a Hanbali or an Abbasid or a Umayyad person. A person who follows the Abbasids or the Umayyads. Sunni means someone who follows the original Sunnah. So it's the people who refuse to allow the original Sunnah to be changed. Those are the Sunnis. Not the people of confusion, not the people of doubt, not the people who one day say it's the 27th of Ramadan, Laylatul-Qadr is the 27th, or maybe it's the 26th, or maybe it's the last 10 nights, or the last 7 nights, or the odd nights, or the 24th. No, that's not the Sunnah of the Prophet. The Sunnah of the Prophet was clear, and it doesn't contradict the Quran. The Sunnah of the Prophet, as Mu'mineen Aisha radiyallahu anha said, the character of the Prophet was the Quran. So the Sunnah of the Prophet doesn't contradict or abrogate the Quran, because Mu'mineen Aisha said radiyallahu anha, according to Sahih Muslim, that the character of the Prophet was the Quran. Okay, so therefore, if you see any hadith that goes against the Quran, that the Prophet did something contrary to the Quran, that means that they're also contradicting the hadith from Sahih Muslim that says the character of the Prophet was based on the Quran. So the character of the Prophet, the actions of the Prophet, cannot possibly contradict or abrogate the Quran. They cannot be any different from the Quran. Whether you use the excuse of abrogation or not, the point is that it cannot be different from the Quran. So that proves that it is the Quran that abrogates everything that came before, everything else. Nothing can abrogate the Quran. But if you want even more proof that the night prayer, the Taraweeh prayer that we are taught today is a fake, is a fabrication. Remember that this so-called Taraweeh, this is called Qiyam al-Layl. They claim, the people who practice this fake Taraweeh, they claim that it is the same as Qiyam al-Layl that is mentioned in the Quran. However, the problem here is that according to the Quran, the Layl actually begins right after the time for iftar. So when you have iftar, when you're fasting, and then you have iftar, that is Layl. Okay, but today we're taught that no, that is Maghrib, and then we have Isha, and then we have Layl prayer, or Qiyam al-Layl, or Taraweeh. Qiyam al-Layl becomes Taraweeh during Ramadan, supposedly. But the truth is that the Quran actually uses the word Layl for what we today call Maghrib. But if you go by the definition of Layl in the Quran, we see that it says, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, Thumma atimmu siyama ila al-layl. Continue your fasting until Layl. Now, even the Shias who fast 15 minutes longer than Sunnis, even they do their iftar during what we've been conditioned to call Maghrib. So even they also do it during Maghrib, not during the so-called Layl that we have been taught today. So they do not eat iftar at Isha. They also eat it at Maghrib, but just 15 minutes later than Sunnis. But what the Quran says is that we must fast until Layl. So this clearly proves that the definition of Layl in the Quran is what we today call Maghrib, what both Shias and the Abbasid Sunnis call Maghrib. That is actually Layl, according to the Quran. So we may wrongly call it Maghrib, but it's actually Layl. And inshallah, I will explain on another video, and I've promised to make this video a long time ago, that there is no such thing as Salat al-Zuhr and Maghrib. We only have Salat al-Fajr, and we have Wusta, and we have Isha. Fajr, Wusta, and Isha. There is no Maghrib Salah. There is no Maghrib namaz, or Zuhr namaz, or Salah. And here is the proof, because according to the Quran, what we call Maghrib is actually Layl. So Qiyam al-Layl is actually the Salah that takes place during the time that we today call Maghrib. So you see, Qiyam al-Layl is not a Salah that takes place after Isha. It actually takes place, it can actually take place before Isha. It can take place during what we today call Maghrib or Isha. It doesn't have to be after Isha. It doesn't have to be. So the night, according to the Quran, begins right after we stop fasting. In other words, as soon as it starts getting dark, as soon as it begins to get dark, that is Layl. But we have been conditioned to say, no, that is Maghrib. And then this Isha, and then we pray Taraweeh or Qiyam al-Layl. So here's proof from the Quran that there is no such thing as Taraweeh. And as I mentioned on my previous video, there are many contradictions regarding Taraweeh. And so we know that these contradictions are because the people who invented these narrations and these ideologies were liars. And so they fabricated different lies. Different shayateen in different cities, in different countries, invented different lies regarding when is Laylatul-Qadr and when is Taraweeh, and how many rakahs should we pray on Taraweeh. It's all made up. It's all fake. There is no such thing. And in fact, there is also no such thing as Maghrib Salah. We have 2 rakahs for Fajr, 8 rakahs for Wusta, and 7 rakahs for Isha, and that's it. And we also have 2 salahs that are recommended, 2 rakahs after Isha and 2 rakahs before Fajr. So yes, there are actually 5 salahs. 5 salahs, but 3 of them are wajib, 2 of them are recommended. But yes, so for example, I myself normally perform salah 5 times a day, although only 3 of them are obligations. But it's different from what we have been taught. It's 2 before Fajr, then Wusta, then Isha, and then 2 rakahs after Isha. And those are voluntary. And so yes, I believe that the whole idea of Taraweeh and the fake Laylatul Qadr was invented by the enemies of Umar ibn Khattab radiyallahu anhu. That is why they also accused him of altering Taraweeh, when in fact there is no such thing as Taraweeh. I've also received a very intelligent question regarding my previous video where I explained that Laylatul Qadr has nothing to do with the month of Ramadan. And so the question some people have asked me is, why does the Quran say, again in the second surah, what we call Surah Al-Baqarah today, in ayah 185, that it was on Ramadan that the Quran was revealed. So the Quran says that the Quran was revealed to the Prophet on Ramadan, and yet I said that Laylatul Qadr has nothing to do with Ramadan, even though the Quran says we revealed it on Laylatul Qadr. So my response to this question, and this is a very good question, this is a very intelligent question, but my response is two things. First of all, why does the Quran say we revealed it on Ramadan instead of just, if it was just revealed on Laylatul Qadr? If it was only revealed, for example, on the 24th or the 27th or the 29th, why does the Quran then say we revealed it during the month of Ramadan instead of saying on a night during Ramadan? You see, the Quran uses the word shahr. Shahr means month. It says we revealed the Quran on the shahr, on the month of Ramadan, not on a night in the month of Ramadan. And the explanation for this is that what we have been taught in some of the ahadith is wrong. We've been taught that Jibreel used to constantly reveal the Quran to the Prophet all throughout the year. That something would come up, for example, and the Prophet wouldn't know what to say, and then Jibreel would come and tell him, and then people used to mock the Prophet and say that it seems like Allah reveals to you whatever you desire. And these are, of course, narrations that try to make us doubt the prophethood of the Prophet. But the reality, the truth is that the Quran was actually only revealed during the month of Ramadan. In other words, the revelation of the Quran would only take place during this 1 month. 11 months of the year, the Prophet would not receive revelation. Only on this 1 month, the Prophet used to receive revelations from Jibreel. In fact, it may surprise you to know that this is actually clearly stated in a hadith in Sahih Bukhari. It is narrated from Ibn Abbas radiyallahu anhu that the Prophet was the most generous amongst the people, and he used to be more so in the month of Ramadan, when Jibreel or Gabriel visited him, and Jibreel used to meet with him on every night of Ramadan until the end of the month. So as you can see, Jibreel used to appear to him every day on Ramadan, not just on Laylatul Qadr, but every day, and Jibreel would only appear to him during this month. So that's why the Quran says that we revealed the Quran to you on the month of Ramadan. So the Quran wasn't revealed during this fake Laylatul Qadr. The Quran was revealed on every single day on Ramadan throughout the whole month, not just on one night. And here's the clear proof from Sahih Bukhari. So it's not that Laylatul Qadr is a night within Ramadan, rather Ramadan is a month within Laylatul Qadr. As I said, Laylatul Qadr is the challenges of the believers, is the life of the mu'mineen. So our life, the challenges that we go through, that is Laylatul Qadr. And so Ramadan is a part of it, not the other way around. This actually shows, this proves that it's actually the opposite of what we have been taught. So yes, our entire life is Laylatul Qadr. And people often ask, how come you're the only person to be saying these things? Well, the Quran says, "A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Wallahu yakhtassu bi rahmatihi man yasha." Allah gives His mercy to whomever He wills. If Allah wants to guide you, Allah will guide you. You don't have to be, a so-called important person by the definition of the Sufis or the Shias or other sects. If Allah wants to guide you, Allah will guide you. Allah guides whoever Allah wants. So whether Allah guides one person or 2 people or 10 people or 1,000 people, that's the decision of Allah. The real question is, am I making sense? is what I'm saying true or not? That's what matters. It's not the numbers that matter. It doesn't matter how many people agree or disagree with me. It doesn't matter if this Sufi sect or this Shia sect or this Saudi sect agree with me or not. What matters is, am I speaking the truth? And that's what you're going to be judged on the day of judgment. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is al-haq. Al-haq means the truth. Allah is the truth. So if you love the truth, if you worship the truth, then you would follow the truth, regardless of who is saying it, regardless of whether the person saying it is rich or poor, if he's famous or infamous, if he's has millions of followers or if he has no followers. It doesn't matter. That's not what it's about. It's all about the truth. In fact, there have been other Muslims who have implied this. For example, in the tafsir of Ibn Ajiba al-Hasani, it is there's a narration from Abu al-Abbas that says, "Awqatuna kullaha Laylatul Qadr." He said, all of our time, all of our basically our entire life is Laylatul Qadr. That's what he said as well. Although what the the Sufis and these sects say, that they say no, this is only for special people who follow their heart. And this is actually what the Mufassir himself said. The Mufassir who quoted this narration, he said this is only for Ahlul Qulub min al-Arifin. This is for the people of the heart, the people who follow their heart. For them, their entire life is Laylatul Qadr. But doesn't Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tell us in the Quran, and didn't the Prophet tell us to follow our heart? So it's an obligation on us to follow our heart. So this is not like it belongs to certain saints and special people. We all have to follow our heart. If you're a mu'min, if you're a believer, then you have to then you follow your heart. If you're a munafiq, if you're a kafir, then you don't follow your heart. So it's not like this is a special station for certain people that for them Laylatul Qadr means their entire life. No, it's for all of us. Because we are all supposed to be Ahlul Qulub. Ahlul Qulub is not some kind of a rank that you receive at a university or at a Sufi madrasa or at a Shia Hawza or whatever. It's the station that every Muslim, every believer has to reach. And in fact, you are not a mu'min until you are Ahlul Qulub. So if you want to go to paradise, you have to be Ahlul Qulub. It's not for the rabbis, it's not for the priests, it's not for the Marajeh Taqlid, it's not for the so-called Ayatollahs. It's for the Muslims, it's for the mu'mins, it's for the believers. Another complaint that people have made about my previous video is that they say that Layla means one night. On my previous video, I said that Layla means feminine. Well, it actually means both. Layla is both feminine and it also means one night. But the reason why I explained it, I went into the explanation regarding it being a feminine word, is that I was responding to the Shias who say that because the word is feminine, that therefore is referring to Fatima radiyallahu anha. And I was explaining that even if you use that mindset, it doesn't mean that. It does not mean Fatima. But if you want to say that, okay, Layla means one night, then I totally agree with you. But here's the problem. You see, because these people say that Laylatul Qadr is a night on one of the last 10 nights of Ramadan. Some of them say the odd nights. Okay, but if Layla is one night, Layla means one night as opposed to Layl. Layl can mean any night, but Layla means one night. Okay, so if it's one night, then how can you say that Ramadan is on the last 10 nights of Ramadan? How can you say that Laylatul Qadr is on the last 10 nights of Ramadan, or on the last 7 nights, or on the odd nights, or on the 22nd, 24th, or 26th? As various narrations say different things, but the point is that how can you say it's on these various nights when the very word Layla means one specific night? Or like the Shia say it's on the 19th and the 21st of Ramadan. 19th and 21st, even though Layla itself means one night. Okay, so let's say it doesn't mean feminine at all, even though it is a feminine word, but let's suppose it's not. It doesn't matter. That actually reinforces my point. That actually proves my point even further. As for those who say it's on the 27th, just because the word here in the ayah is the 27th word in the surah, Well, this is actually similar again to these 19 code people. Although these people who say this are not 19ers, they're not hadith rejectors, but what they're saying is similar to them. There's, it's based on conjecture and assumptions that, because the word here means it, because it says it, therefore, and the word it is the 27th word in the surah, that therefore Laylatul-Qadr is the 27th. This is just assumptions and conjecture, and Allah warns us about these people, just as Allah warns us about the people who misunderstand the meaning of the number 19. And they say that because Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim has 19 letters, that therefore Islam is based on number 19, and anything that doesn't fit the number 19 is false. And they even reject 2 verses from the Quran because they don't fit into their 19 code. So these silly things that are the confusions that many groups have. Like the Shia say that because the word Imam appears 12 times in the Quran, that therefore we have to be 12 Imami Shias. That's their proof. But they don't realize that out of the 12 times the word Imam is mentioned in the Quran, twice it is referring to A'immat al-Kufr. It's referring to the Kafir Imams. So by their own assumption, we would have to say 2 of the 12 Imams are Kafir. You see how stupid it is, so silly. And if you go by this logic of these people who say here is the 27th letter, the 27th word in the surah, well, I can say that no, what about the word Laylatul-Qadr? Shouldn't that word be the day when we observe Laylatul-Qadr on? Shouldn't instead of saying that it's the 27th, we have to see where in the surah it says Laylatul-Qadr, and that is when Laylatul-Qadr is. But then the problem is that the word Laylatul-Qadr, the term Laylatul-Qadr, is repeated 3 times in the surah. So but then you can say, okay, it's 3 times during the month. You see, you can come up with all kinds of crazy theories. And another problem with these people is that they don't even realize that the Bismillah at the beginning of the surah is actually a part of the surah. And so if you include that, then the word here will not even be the 27th. But as I said, these are the confusions of shaitan. And the Quran tells us to go after what is clear, not what is ambiguous. Go after the muhkamat, not the mutashabahat. You see, these mutashabahat, this is the mentality of the Kabbalist Jews. These, the Abjad and the Kabbalah, and this word has this many letters in it, and this word it equals this number, and therefore we have to do this. And you can come up with all kinds of crazy things, and you can justify all kinds of kufr and shirk and kufr and all kinds of bid'ahs if you go by these number games, and it's meaningless. And as I said, we can even use these things against themselves. We can say that no, Laylatul-Qadr is when the surah mentions Laylatul-Qadr, or 12 Imams, okay, then two of the 12 Imams are Kafir, because out of the 12 times that the Quran mentions the word Imam, twice it is referring to the Kuffar. So we can say the same things. It is just pointless going into these type of arguments. You have to get out of that mentality of the mutashabahat. You have to go into the mentality of muhkamat. You have to understand that the religion of Islam is clear, and the only thing that's unclear is our own minds. We have been brainwashed and conditioned to think in a confused manner. Now, one of the biggest problems I have with this whole fake Laylatul-Qadr is that all these people who believe in this, they preach that Laylatul-Qadr is the night on which Allah writes our fate on. And so if we are good people on that night, then Allah will alter our fate. Now, there are many problems with this idea, and this actually comes from some of the ahadith. There are some ahadiths that actually say this, but this is actually kufr. This has many problems. All these ahadiths are false that say this. They are all lies. And here are a number of ways of proving that this cannot be true. First of all, if you say that Allah changes his mind on Laylatul-Qadr, then you are saying that Allah is not omniscient. He does not know everything. When Allah predestined our life, He didn't know that He's going to change it later on. He didn't know better. when he didn't know everything, and now we are changing Allah's mind by doing something on Laylatul-Qadr. You see, so it's actually the denial of fate in a sense. It's almost like denying fate. It's almost like denying Qadr. And you're denying the fact that Allah is all-knowing, that Allah is omniscient. And you're questioning Allah's wisdom. And also, if Allah writes our fate every year on this one night, then how come we have so many prophecies about the Sufyani and about the Mahdi and about the Dajjal and about the Ya'juj and Ma'juj? So this shows that everything has already been predestined. Everything is already a part of fate. And it is also narrated in Sahih Bukhari that the pen has dried. The pen has dried is referring to fate, is saying that what has been written cannot be changed. The fate that is written cannot be changed. So when we read in the Quran that something is going to happen in the future, or if we read in a true hadith, in a real hadith, that something is going to happen in the future, there is nothing that can change it. The pen has dried means that fate cannot be changed. So you cannot change your fate. That's not how it works. You cannot trick Allah to change his mind about you by doing good works during this one night, and then you can relax in the rest of the year and be evil. And no, that's not how it works. You cannot deceive Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah already knew everything before we were even created. Allah always knew everything. I was going to say Allah knew everything from the beginning, but Allah actually knew everything always. Allah has always known everything, and everything has always been predestined. There is no changing of predestination or fate. I'm not saying that we don't have any free will. What I'm saying, and I explained about this before on my past videos, that our free will is part of Allah's fate, meaning that free will and fate do not even contradict. So it's not as if Allah needs to change fate. And here's the biggest problem. If you say that Allah changes our fate on Ramadan or on Laylatul-Qadr, on this, on the 20th, something of Ramadan, on the 24th of Ramadan or whatever, if you say that Allah changes our fate, then think about this. If you say that everything up to that point is predestined by Allah, and then we, for example, pray on the 24th, and then Allah changes our fate, wasn't our praying on the Laylatul-Qadr also part of fate? Wasn't that also part of predestination? If you say it wasn't, then you're denying predestination. You're denying Qadr, just like the followers of Dajjal. As the hadith says that the followers of Dajjal deny fate, they deny Qadr. So your praying on that night or on that month is also part of Qadr. It's been predestined. So if Allah already predestined that you are going to pray on that night or on that month, then how come He didn't already give you the fate that you're supposed to have? You see, Allah, in reality, Allah already knows that we are going to pray. So when we pray for something, forget about Ramadan and Laylatul-Qadr, but just when we pray for anything, it's not like we are changing Allah's mind. Allah already knew that we were going to pray, and Allah already predestined that we would pray and then we would be rewarded. So praying doesn't change Allah's mind, as some of the ahadith imply, and what the Abbasid Sunnis think. They think that on this night we can change Allah's mind and make Him change our fate because Allah writes our fate on this night. No, according to Sahih Bukhari, our fate was already written and the pen has dried. So this means that when we, as I said, when you pray for something, that is also part of fate. And when you make a decision to do something, that is also part of fate. Everything that we decide to do has been predestined. And this may sound like a paradox, but I already explained about this on previous videos, that this is actually not a paradox. It's like a paradox, it's almost a paradox, but that is because we do not understand how powerful Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is. That Allah is so powerful that Allah predestines our free will. So for Allah, free will and predestination do not conflict. If you create a world, for example, if you create a video game, or if you write a story or a novel, then you are controlling the life of those characters. And so you think that, well, this is all predestined by me. Therefore, the characters that I invented in that story or in that movie or in that video game, they do not have free will. I gave them their will. Yes, but that is you. That is if you invent a story. But Allah didn't just invent a story. Allah created free will. So that is something that we cannot do. That is something so great, so amazing, that is beyond our comprehension. That Allah is so powerful that Allah created free will. Allah didn't just create us as part of a story that we are forced to go through, but Allah created our free will. In other words, our free will is the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if you want me to go into more detail about this, I'm just going to give you a quick explanation here. When you do the right thing, then you are expressing your free will. In other words, when people are sinning, when people do evil things, they actually don't have free will. When you commit an evil action, you do not practice your free will. Evil is not free. Evil goes against freedom. Evil is contrary to freedom. You may think you're free. You say, I'm free to smoke, I'm free to gamble, I'm free to fornicate or whatever. No. But when you decide to do something evil, then you fall into fate. Then you fall into Allah's qadr. Then you fall into part of Allah's test for the believers. Then you become like a test for other people. When you decide to harm people, for example, when you decide to attack people, then you become part of fate, part of Allah's fate, part of Allah's challenge for other people. And so you only do the bad things that Allah allows you to do. You think you have free will, but you don't. So, but you might say, what about when you decide to do good things? What about when you decide to do good actions? Do you have free will then, or do you have fate? No, then you have free will. Because as I said, freedom is good. Freedom itself is godly. And so when you decide to do good deeds, then you are finally free. Then you become free. But when you become free, then you will do what Allah wants you to do. Therefore, again, it falls into Allah's predestination, but in a different way. In other words, now you're not forced to do what you're doing, but you are doing what Allah wants you to do. In other words, you connect to Allah. In other words, when you decide to do good deeds, you connect to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You establish a connection to Allah so that your will becomes the will of Allah. Allah wants you to do something and you do it. So you're free, but the freedom makes your will one with Allah. So you see, because Allah is not some tyrannical, negative being who's forcing us to do certain things. When Allah only forces the bad people, or people who want to do bad things, when you want to commit a sin, then Allah forces you to commit a certain type of sin instead of other sins. But when you decide to do good, then Allah makes you free. But because you're good, then your freedom becomes the same as the will of Allah. So even though if you're free to take whatever decision you want, your freedom, your free will becomes the will of Allah, and therefore it still remains a part of Allah's predestination. You see, it's similar to creativity. Who is the creator? Allah is the creator, right? Now, evil people sometimes try to create evil things. But when an evil person tries to create something evil, that is actually not true creativity. The most creative people are actually the best people. It's not the people you see in these fake Sufi mosques or in the Shia mosque who, performing these stupid rituals. It's not those boring people. Good people are not boring. Good people are actually very interesting. Good people are full of life and energy. Even if they're sick, they're still full of life and energy. They're still full of a light and a vitality that's inward, a spiritual vitality. And so when you're a good person, you become more creative. Why? Because now your creativity is connected to Allah, who is the creator. So when you invent a lie, that is not real creativity. Real creativity is actually the truth. In other words, when you tell the truth, you're actually more creative. The truth is actually more creative than lies. That's why these lies that you are taught in the schools, in these fake history lessons, in the schools, in these fake science lessons, that's why they're so boring, because they're lying to us. When they lie to you, when they tell you that the earth is in this certain shape, or when you read the Bible and you get bored, you're getting bored because they are telling you lies. They are telling you lies in school. They are telling you lies in your science books, in your Bible as well. That's why when you read them, you get bored. But the truth isn't boring. The truth is actually interesting. The truth doesn't make you bored, because the truth itself is creative. I know we are conditioned to think that no, you're either a creative liar or you tell the truth. But the reality is that the truth itself is the ultimate creativity. So when you become very, very creative, your creativity is actually becomes the truth. It's not that you create your own reality or you invent your own reality, as some of these Freemasons say. No, your creativity becomes the truth because your creativity is now connected to Allah. And so the truth isn't some boring facts. The truth is the ultimate creativity. That's why, for example, real conspiracy theories are very interesting and the fake ones are so boring, and that's why they are replacing all the real ones with the fake ones, so that we get bored with that and go back to watching TV and go back to the education system and believe their lies. But when you listen to real conspiracy researchers, even though they don't have much money to spend on their videos, even though they don't have much money to spend on their books, there's still the information they provide is more interesting than the information that these boring shills provide. Even though they try to make their videos look flashy and expensive, still the video feels empty. Their videos feel very they look interesting, but they're not actually interesting. You feel an emptiness within you when you watch them. So you see, we are not supposed to deceive Allah and take advantage of this night on Ramadan as these people preach. You can see that it's actually the title of the video. It says last 10 nights of Ramadan and Laylatul-Qadr, how to take advantage. You see, so they want to take advantage. They want to take advantage of this one night. In other words, they want to cheat their way into paradise. They think that this one night will forgive all their sins and it will make Allah change his mind, and then the rest of the year we can, sell out to the enemies of Allah and cooperate with the Zionists and the Freemasons and go into business with them and stop caring for our brothers in Palestine or Afghanistan or Chechnya or Iraq or other countries. We can just sell out to the enemies of Allah if you just cheat on this, if you just take advantage of this one night. But that's not how it works. You can't take advantage. You have to genuinely be a good person. That's what it's really all about. It's about being a genuinely good person. It's about being sincere. Sincerity it's all what Islam is really about. It's about sincerity. By the way, the main reason I'm making this video is that at the very end of my Laylatul-Qadr video, I actually made a mistake. The translation that I gave wasn't a very good translation. Although I have to tell you that all the translations of the last ayah are wrong. It's not just my translation that's wrong, but they're all wrong. And the translation that I gave was peace be upon her, or peace be upon it, peace be upon Laylatul-Qadr, salamun hiya. That I translated salamun hiya as peace be upon her, whereas upon her is alayh, not salamun hiya. Salamun alayh it should be. But the point is that all other translations are also mistranslating this. For example, most of the translations say it is peaceful or it is peace. Now both of these translations are wrong. So they are saying Laylatul-Qadr, it is peace, or it is peaceful. First of all, salamun hiya does not mean peaceful. It says salamun. Salamun does not mean peaceful. It means peace. The word salam means peace. or actually means inner peace, not peace as opposed to war. That is called sulh in Arabic. But salam means the inner peace, like health or peace, or like peace of, healthy peace, when you're at peace, not peace as opposed to war. So it says, but it does not mean peaceful at all. It doesn't mean peaceful at all. It means peace as in when we say assalamu alaikum. It's not as opposed to war. It's not the opposite of war. It means inner peace. So you can have inner peace and still be in a war. You can be in the middle of a battlefield and still have salam within you. That's got nothing to do with that. So first of all, that translation is wrong, and the other translation, it is peace, that is also wrong and doesn't make much sense either. And the main problem is that it actually doesn't say it is peace. It says peace, it, salamun, hiya. In Arabic, you normally say hiya salam. Hiya salam, it is peace. That's how you say it is. If you want to say it or she is peace, which doesn't even make sense. But supposing that that's what the ayah wanted to say, you would say hiya salam. So why? But the Quran doesn't say hiya salam. The Quran says salamun hiya. So why does the Quran use a different terminology instead of saying hiya salam? Why does it say salamun hiya? That has a different meaning. And the truth is that, I said my own translation, the translation that I gave on my last video, the reason why I gave a wrong translation is that I was trying to respond to the Shias, and I was still trying to use their own mentality against them. So that's why I basically gave the same interpretation or translation that they have, because they say it's Fatima and say she is, they say peace be upon Fatima, and so I made the mistake of basically using their own interpretation just to prove them wrong. But the translation or interpretation that I gave was actually wrong too, because I was basically using their own translation against them, but that was wrong. The real meaning that I'm going to reveal here is actually completely different from all the translations and interpretations that you find in all the books that I've read, at least. All the translations that I've read, at least, are wrong. They usually translate it as it is peace or it is peaceful, even though it is peace is hiya salam, not salamun hiya. So what is the ayah actually saying? It's saying, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, Salamun hiya hatta matla al-fajr. Salamun hiya hatta matla al-fajr. In other words, the salamun has nothing to do with the hiya. It is not saying salamun hiya. It is saying salamun hiya hatta matla al-fajr. In other words, it's saying peace. Peace is telling the believers, peace, as-salam, may you have inner peace. Don't worry. It's telling us, don't worry. Be at peace. Because this night, this Laylatul-Qadr, these challenges, these difficulties will only last until Matla al-Fajr. In other words, they will not continue forever. They will only continue until the coming of the dawn, until you go to paradise. So be at peace. Have inner peace. Do not worry, because Laylatul-Qadr will only continue until the end of this life. It will not continue forever. You're not going to reincarnate and suffer again, or you're not going to go to hell if you're a good person. It's not going to continue over and over again. It's only going to continue until you accomplish your mission and you go to paradise. You see, so he's saying salamun. He's saying salamun. He's saying, oh believers, salam, peace be upon you. Assalamu alaikum. Salamun. Here hatta matla al-fajr. Here, meaning Laylatul-Qadr, is only until matla al-fajr. So peace, don't worry, do not worry. These difficulties are going to end very soon. And another question or complaint that I've received is that the word fajr, they say you have interpreted the word fajr metaphorically instead of literally, because the word fajr, they say it means the morning, and so it actually means the physical morning or dawn, the coming of dawn. So they say that it means when the sun rises. not when we go to paradise. They say that you have interpreted the coming of the day metaphorically as paradise. But what these people need to understand is that the very word Fajr itself literally doesn't mean what they say. I mean, yes, the word Fajr can mean the dawn, the coming of the morning, the rise of the sun. But the very word Fajr, if you go back to the root of the word Fajr, if you go to understand why we use the word Fajr for the morning, the reason why people use this word is that the very word Fajr means an opening. It means an opening. So people said that it's like the night has an opening. The light opens into the night, and so then we have light. So that's why the morning was called Fajr in the first place. But the word itself actually means opening. Or an alternative translation would be to cleave, an opening or a cleaving. In other words, when there's a split or a cleaving, when you're looking at the sky at the dark sky, and then there's a cleaving, there's an opening, there's a split in the darkness, and the light appears from within, and it breaks the darkness. It removes the darkness. So that's why the term Fajr was used in the first place. But that's the literal meaning, is actually cleaving or splitting or severing or opening. So it's like basically saying that in this context, in the context of the surah, is saying that this night will only last until the gates of paradise are opened, until there is an opening so that we can enter paradise. So when paradise opens, then the darkness of this world will be removed, and so we can enter paradise through the opening, through the cleaving, through the split that's going to be created within this world. So that's what it means. So he's saying Salamun, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, Salamun hiya hatta matla al-fajr. Not A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, Salamun hiya hatta matla al-fajr. Salamun hiya hatta matla al-fajr. So that is the reason why it doesn't say hiya salam. Otherwise, if it was the way that we are told today, it would have said hiya salamun hatta matla al-fajr. But it does not say hiya salamun hatta matla al-fajr. It says, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, salamun hiya hatta matla al-fajr. Peace, don't worry, be at peace, because this Laylatul-Qadr will only continue until the opening takes place and you can enter paradise. So soon the gates of paradise are going to be opened for you, and so you don't need to worry about the difficulties in this world. This is only temporary. And another mistake I made on that video is when I was talking about the hand of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And ever since I made that video, I've actually come to a different conclusion regarding the hand of Allah. But because it's unrelated to this video, I don't want to go into it. I don't want to explain it. But I'm not saying that the hand of Allah. I have not adopted the belief of the Salafis regarding the hand of Allah or anything like that. But the explanation I gave on that video regarding the hand of Allah isn't correct. I just want you to know that it's not correct, and inshallah I will explain what it means on future videos. The reason why I don't want to tell you quickly, because if I tell you quickly, it's going to confuse you, because you're going to think that I'm being metaphorical or being anthropomorphic, but it's actually not. It's actually much more. It's very complex. I can't explain it here. But yeah, what I said about the hand of Allah isn't exactly true. It wasn't accurate. But anyway, I just want to add these notes. So when you watch my previous video, watch this one along with it, so that it would correct some of the mistakes and some of the misconceptions that people may have from watching the first video. I hope that I've answered all your questions that you may have had regarding that video. If you have any more questions, I don't think YouTube will even allow me to see all your comments, but if you can somehow write a comment or make a video even though YouTube won't, YouTube is going to censor you, but the internet in general is going to censor you. But if you can do something, then do it. And inshallah, I will answer more questions in the future. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh.